Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm so excited to have Cherie Ray on the show with me today. Cherie Ray is an international consultant and coach specializing in human potential, peace of mind, and creativity. She brings an uncommon blend of caring, experience, and commitment to her work. Her clients gain a deep understanding of how people universally operate, how possibilities and opportunities can be seen, and how the creative process works. From this new understanding, clients see fresh change, increased inspiration, and unprecedented creativity. Cherie also facilitates workshops that support the true exploration of creativity. This is creating free of a desired outcome, a goal, or a product. She does this through the process of intuitive painting. Welcome, Cherie, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
Me too, Dale.
Yeah, you're very patient with me.
Oh, not at all.
Oh, well, I am as a former painter myself. I haven't painted in a few years, but um, I am so excited for this show because I want to learn all about intuitive painting. But before we get there, I want you to tell us a little bit about how you came across the principles and how they impacted your life, and both professionally and personally. So.
Well, I found, as so many people do that, I found the principles completely by accident. You know, and I didn't even know what I was hearing, but there was something about it that said I wanted to hear more. I don't know what I just heard, but I know there's something here. So it was one of those moments where it felt like the North Needle was pointing me in a direction to look more, but I had no clue why. So uh so I they found me, I found them. I don't know how that works. But what I found out was that as I even looked in the direction of the three principles, it it was it was like information I never had, like an owner's manual for life that I nobody had handed out before. And so with that sort of impact of like, it's so simple, it's so direct, it's so obvious, and it's so invisible until somebody points it out to you.
Mm.
And then the impact that that makes on your life.
I love how you describe it, and that is so true. Isn't it amazing that we just it's so simple, and when we see it, we're like, "Duh," "Why didn't I get this before?"
Or
But
how come nobody
yeah,
told me? How come
exactly.
nobody told me?
The title of Jack's book, I love it. It's so to the point.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, somebody
Exactly.
should have told us. Might have helped a lot.
Exactly. And I think of all the well-meaning parents in the world that are really pouring their heart and soul into raising productive, well-rounded human beings. And if they just knew this operating system that we all possess, it would be like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it could be so much easier.
That's so great. So, just in case somebody's tuning in thinking, oh, this is going to be a whole conversation around art, and they're thinking, what's she talking about? Tell me what it was that you saw, so that somebody that's maybe completely new to the principles might go, oh my God. So, what you've just described to me, tell me how it impacted you, or how a lay person could hear this for the first time.
Well, when you look at children, they create effortlessly, naturally, and they immediately sync up to the flow of life. Okay. So just like the principles, it's invisible to us what's going on until somebody points it out. But you'll notice as adults get so domesticated and wise of the world, so to speak, um, we lose contact with just authentic, real, fluid creativity. What we do naturally. If we do it naturally, we tend to discount it or not be of any value.
Mhm.
But there comes a time in most people's lives when they're like, I have the itch to participate in something creative. whether it's in their accounting work, whether it's in their, they just want to be more fully expressed. And so the creativity and being creative is 100% natural. We would do it without thinking, just like kids do.
Mhm.
Now, where the blockage comes from is what our mind makes up about every authentic gesture that comes to us, like via inspiration.
Mhm.
All of a sudden it comes from the source of everything. The purest source sends us this inspiration or a tap on the shoulder. And what happens? I send it to my conditioned mind to see what it thinks. And then it turns out to be the gatekeeper of a good idea, bad idea. You can do this. You can't do this.
Mm.
It's not going to work. It is going to work.
It's so funny as you're talking, I'm thinking back to I've always loved drawing. That was just my absolute sort of savior as a child. And I remember in particular the first moment when a teacher said to me, you know, the sky has to meet the ground. And in my head, my little like 5-year-old head, it was like, no, the sky's up there and the ground is here. That they're not going to meet. But it wasn't, I mean, clearly as we get older, we see that. But the correcting a 5-year-old that they have to see it before they see it instills in them that there's something wrong with the way they're doing their art or the way they're expressing themselves, as innocently as it is. And I remember doing this scene once with cows like going off the page, and I was told, "No, you can't do that. They've got to stay within the frame." And I was like, I've seen cows wander off and nothing made sense to me. But I was left with a feeling of, you're doing it wrong.
Yes. Yes. I think that's what happens. Again, I'll say it's so innocent, but what happens is I think that children get introduced to the notion of good and bad, right and wrong, the polarity of life through something that is so authentic and so genuine. To your point, it's like, but that to a 5-year-old mind, that's how I see it. I saw the sky, I saw the ground. So then they start to doubt and question that which came through them authentically, effortlessly, from just pure creative expression. All of a sudden it enters the world of form and gets judged.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually went to art school when I was 16, and I was I remember a teacher, it was in the 70s. So there was that sort of contemporary art movement. But I remember one of my very first teachers saying to me, "Oh, you're not an artist. You copy life really well." Because I could draw anything and have it look realistic. It was just came out of me that way. And he said, "That's not an artist. That's not creative." And I remember being so, I mean, that impacted me so much again, especially being in art school where, you hopefully would think that you could be creative. And it was a stinging comment. And probably, as you said, totally innocent and probably trying to encourage me to go deeper than just recording what I saw. But
Mhm.
again, it's that doubting, that sort of judgment of this is not good enough.
Exactly, exactly. And being young, we internalize that. We don't see it as someone giving voice to thought in the moment. We see it as an absolute reflection of the character and quality of human being that I am and
Yeah.
my abilities in the world.
Mm. So what do you do with your clients that come in there with all this baggage like I'd have?
Well, I did intuitive painting for myself before I ever found the principles,
Mm.
because I have to say, kind of like a timestamp on my life's journey was I had no permission to just be me. You know, I was a problem in a lot of places. So,
Tell me more. I want to hear this.
so when I found intuitive painting, and it was a place where I could explore putting paint on paper and not have to do the line them up at the end of the painting time, and I don't have to paint a bowl of fruit, and no one's going to say you've got this or you don't have this, because I tried one art class one time, and when at the end of the first one we were doing the proverbial bowl of fruit,
Mhm.
mine was all pink, and my legs didn't touch the ground, kind of like your sky didn't touch the earth. And my fruit was not in the bowl. And when everyone else lined theirs up, my inner state of mind was completely validated that I didn't have what it took.
Wow.
You can't even you can't even get a bowl of fruit right. So that's how powerful state of mind is inside us on the tiniest things. So I just picked up my things and walked out and never went back. And so when I found something that would let me hold a paintbrush and stand and paint and no one would critique or comment on it, I didn't trust it because I said, but what I realized was that there's a movement of expression that wants to come through all of us. And it doesn't have to be with a paintbrush, but if our state of mind is not receptive to these inspirations that come, we'll stop ourselves on something as benign as putting marks on a piece of paper, much less following a big inspiration of where you might want to move your life down the road.
Wonderful. So how did that process happen for you? I mean, how did you let go of any feelings of I can't do this, I'm not good enough, or anything like that? How did the process go?
Well, I was so full of doubt and so full of I won't be able to do this. I found a flyer that said no critiques, and I was like, okay, but she would only do them in groups. And I called her up and I said, I want to do a private lesson because I didn't fail in front of a crowd again. I just couldn't take it, my no esteem. I said didn't have low self-esteem. I had like no esteem. So I wanted to do a private. And it took her about 3 months, and I went to her house. She finally said, okay, we'll do one. And standing in front of a piece of paper, it's you, a piece of paper, and a hairy stick. That's it. And you just stand there and you just see how putting a brush and paper and making a mark, you have a tsunami of judgment about something that simple. And I wanted to go for green. And I was like, oh, I don't do green. And the facilitator said, well, if you want to do green, what have you got against green? And so I went to green, and she looked at me, she goes, but there's no mistakes. And so that earworm of truth kind of cracked glass inside of me in the way of saying it. And I left there, and it disturbed me so much that I was almost defiant, like, oh, really? You're going to tell me there's no mistakes? I'll show you. And that touching that truth inside of us, I was home by myself for the weekend, and I went to my garage and I saw a can of school bus yellow paint and three foam brushes. And I was so irritated that I grabbed that half gallon of paint and those 3 foam brushes, and I started painting on the walls of my garage. And I did it all weekend, just like a crazy person. I wouldn't draw it. I didn't even, I just said, we're going to see if there's no such thing as mistakes. And I just started swirls and twirls, whatever it was. I just started painting. And the judgments finally laid down. They still show up, but I don't give them any, I have a different relationship with them because they're just thought in a moment. They're grabbing at something while I'm doing something, but it's not related to truth.
I love that. Not related to truth. Yeah, it's so funny. I've been an excellent student for you. I told you I'm planning to come and visit you once we got this COVID has lifted. I want to have an art lesson with you. I remember also when I got to it's only a few years ago, I entered some sort of art school for a little while, and they were like, oh, you have had way too much, traditional painting. But again, it was a criticism.
Yes.
So it was like I was always too realistic, too whatever, too. And I think to sort of, really get in touch, as you say, with, what it's reminding me of? I'm in a writing class right now too, that talks about get rid of the concept of talent and let creativity just flow through you.
Yes.
Talent can actually get in the way.
Yes.
So can you talk about that as far as painting is concerned? I'd love to hear your take on that.
No, talent that is a concept. And the concept of talent, everyone has their own thinking on what talent would be, how talent would be defined.
Mhm.
So, kind of like I'm a good person or a bad person. It's another concept that gets overlaid on um, the purity, I'll say, of a human soul, and then we think we have to paint in the direction of how I've defined talent. Now that puts a lot of congestion on a very simple gesture, or I'll even say it keeps you in your head tied to something versus dropping in to the depths, the deeper parts of you, and allowing yourself to really get absorbed in the moment.
Mm. So okay, so take me through. So I've arrived at your class with my baggage. I can't do this, and I'm too this, and I can't do that. And tell me how you would actually, besides telling me to pick up a paintbrush, how would you start to talk to somebody to have them get out of their head and really into their heart and connect with that creativity that is flowing through all of us?
Oh, I like to find out why they're there,
Hmm.
and more times than not, people say, "I just want to feel free. I want to feel free," and to me, that is a beautiful exploration of, it can last a lifetime or two or three because we're human, but it's like, I just want to be free. And that is enough for us to say, okay, now here it is. You're going to have the opportunity to respond in the moment. You can't get this wrong. You can't get this right. We're not pointing toward any particular outcome, and there are no rules. Now, this beautiful paintbrush is going to be like a vehicle for you to just move on paper. So there's a lot about just having a brush that can glide on paper, which makes it different than doing it for a particular product or a particular effect. Or so there's a real difference between creating with a goal in mind and creating with no goal in mind. It's very different.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, we all want this freedom. Stand in front of this piece of paper, walk back and forth to a paint table with these little precious paint pots, let a color pick you, make a mark on the paper. Now, if anywhere in that journey there starts to be a right, a wrong, a good, a bad, or rules, you got to know that's coming from you, not from the painting process, not from you. So when it comes to three principles exploration, you stand there and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I live under so many layers of thought. No matter what I do, I can't do it right. No matter what I do, it's not good enough. You just start to really have the music of our state of mind get louder and louder and louder, because it's very rare we're that present with ourselves. And they're said, go be free.
Mm. I love what you were describing. And as you were describing it, I was thinking, but that's how I live my life. I love that sort of, so much more now. I mean, I don't spend much time up here planning or strategizing anything. I am so excited to be lived by my wisdom, following this direction that just comes up in me to like, oh, what about there? Or what about there? And, I mean, the sort of goals and the planning and the thinking I should do. And that's all died down. It's purely like, wow, that came to me. Okay, let me try it. So it's that sort of, so what you were describing, it really is the principles. It's being guided by wisdom, being guided or lived, life living through you, as opposed to the illusion that we're in control and we have to plan and strategize and work hard and make things happen. It's great. I love it because it is a complete and utter physical expression of what we point to with our clients.
All the time. I mean, your life becomes total expression, and not, it's kind of like your life becomes a full meditation not just sitting on a cushion. Your
Yeah.
life becomes a full expression of you, and you don't have to have a paintbrush in your hand.
Mhm.
Everything you do. And Dell, I don't know if you had this when you first heard that, but when people would say, no, they don't plan this. They do what makes sense to them in the moment. And I was like, y'all aren't telling me the truth. Because you can't be successful and not have a plan, you know? and it would be, I couldn't wrap my head around it. So clients all the time say, you're not in touch with the world. You're not really in touch with real life because, you can't do this out in the world. I'm like, yes.
I don't know. It's amazing. Yeah, I am busier and more productive than I've ever been by getting out of my head.
And you know what else I say, Dale, is
Yeah,
and more efficient than you ever imagined.
totally. Yep. 100%. And I call it like following that golden thread that's just in front of you. Rather, I think we tend to sort of look too far ahead and we're missing what's right in front of us. I
Mhm.
mean, we're living in the future, we're not living in the present moment. We're missing these amazing gifts that are right there or incredible directions to take because we're like, no, 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 I've got a plan. It's over there. It's over there. And we're missing it all.
Totally, totally. Because I see so clearly now that for the greater part of my life, I lived life through my mind,
Hmm.
not in real time,
Yeah.
not even with the people I'm sitting across the table from. I'm experiencing these people with judgments about these people or what I think about this people or what I think about this conversation. I'm never really letting in what they're sharing with me because it's got to go through the gatekeeper of this. And when that starts to lay down and you can take in what people say, you're taking in life and the flow of life, and you see you can't believe, I couldn't believe how much opportunity you see when you're just not living life through a to-do list and through my mind, living it, seeing how it's going to turn out in my mind, and then I'll decide if I'm going to move forward. No. That's no fun.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. So, who are most of the clients that come to you?
They're really across the board.
Mhm.
Across the board. It can be everyone from, because I'll do um, uh, work, gosh, whether it's team events, whether it's individuals, but it's anybody who's like either in a position that the golden handcuffs are too good, but they want they want a fresh experience of, they don't want to walk away from where they are because they've worked their entire life to get there. So it's like, okay, well, how can we come back and have a fresh experience of that? Because they think it's the job.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
think it's their position. So I work with executives, retirees, empty nesters, um, just anyone who says it's got to be easier than how I'm living life.
One of the reasons I wanted you on right now is because, obviously we're all in lockdown. There's a lot of people are experiencing fear of not even so much the people I encounter, so much to do with the physical, their physical health or the health of their families, even though that is a major concern too. But it's fear of what the future holds.
Mhm.
Fear of, some people have already been furloughed or lost their jobs, and some people are experiencing this as like a reset, not just for the planet. I mean, certainly a reset for the planet, but I think how we show up in the world, how we approach our work. I mean, even right now, I'm recording from home, not from the studio. And I'm like, wow, I like this. You know, less, less time on. Well, the lighting's an awful lot better at the studio. So that's still got
Yes.
a little lure for me. But not sitting in a car for 2 hours and then having another hour in there just in case there's an accident and I'm late. So you lose a chunk of your day. Um, but how do you see art or creativity um, helping people deal with the circumstances that we're going through right now?
Well, I think it is pivotal because as human beings develop their own kind of habitual behaviors and things that they go to, whether it's they just kind of reach for things in life, whether it's I'll run to the grocery store. Where can I get lunch? I'm going to go get I'm going to do dinner. So what I think is so beautiful that this is an opportunity for is so many things have been the habitual things that we do unconsciously have been taken away. So what is on offer is that their innate creative process is now being enlisted because their habits have been disturbed. But they don't realize it's their innate creative process being enlisted to help them expand their sense of well-being, or even explore their sense of well-being at times. So firstly, it's like, due to change, people have to think differently, and they also will get fresh ideas on how to do what they do. Just like you mentioned, going, wow, I'm kind of liking this not trafficking world. So that's versus going into panic, because you're grounded in your understanding. You see this as opportunity versus as disaster. And we go in and out of that. So, but in the practice of creativity as a place to, I'll say, as a respite from everything that's going on around you, what it offers is it really offers you the opportunity to settle in below the rough waters of all the input that we're getting bombarded with. We have all that input, whether it's social media, television. I noticed that the other day when we were thinking that when they said, "Oh, I think we might be flattening the curve, but don't get your hopes up. It's going to come back." And I was going, really? Can you not give people a little bit of a chance to, take a breath? So the practice of creativity, like you had mentioned, even picking up a blank piece of paper, an envelope, and drawing on the back of it, what that does is it requires you to climb down out of all the worries and concerns of the mind, and you settle in, and you get absorbed in something. Why do they have so many wonderful new subscribers to Netflix? Because people can turn it on and they can get absorbed in something, and they just settle in to that, to the truth of who they are. So during these times, if people could say, I really play with the notion of, I don't need to have been to art school to explore doodling on the back of an envelope. I don't need to have gone to culinary school to create a fresh meal. I don't need a skill set or a technique to follow these inspirations. Anything that you give your attention to, and if you really allow yourself to stay out of your head about how you're doing on it, good, bad, right, wrong, can't, you will settle to the bottom of the ocean, so to speak, where it's calm. And at that point, you just have the opportunity to follow inspiration. And then you really just don't care what your mind has to say about it because it feels so good.
I mean, you're reminding me of when I used to have a studio. I used to have a big house with a big art studio in it. I was an oil painter. And, some days I would pass the studio and I'd see a painting on the canvas and I go, I'm just going to go in there and work a little. And all of a sudden it's like 8 hours would pass.
Yes.
That my kids weren't fed, the animals were out in the dark, all the doors were open. I would just get so engrossed and lost. And it's like a meditation. It's beautiful. And I've been so busy since this, with coaching and things during this process. But there is this thing inside me that just keeps looking at the easel going, just stop, just do some painting, just give that gift to yourself.
Yes. And Dale, that's one of the reasons why people won't do it, because they say, "Oh, I'm going to go in there and get lost." But what I say is, you really find the truth of who you are. You don't get lost. You find the truth, and then you look up and go, kind of like this reset that we're going through right now. We're having the opportunity to really stop and go, wait a minute. is this the way I want to live? Is this the what? I was completely in that feeling, and I realized I don't have to be. There's right here, right now, inside me is a much richer feeling
Yeah.
all the time, and you can do it by putting a ballpoint pen on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be special. The mind makes it special.
That's I keep thinking that this whole experience we're going through is one giant, great big metaphor for the three principles. We've been sort of stripped of, we're so conditioned to think it's an outside in world. It's the stuff that we do in the outside that gives us the pleasure. But I have spoken to so many people, and I'm not diminishing people that have, lost family members or been impacted. That is in no way do I want to diminish that unbelievable pain that they're going through. But there are some people that are actually finding out that once all that outer stuff is stripped away, that they're happier than they've ever been. And they're like, how could this be? I
Yes.
don't get to drive my flashy car. I don't get to wear my designer clothes. I don't get to eat in those restaurants that I love. And it's really having people go, wait a minute, I'm still feeling happy. Where does that come from if it's not coming from the outside? And
Yes.
I love that. I love that is what people are experiencing for themselves right now. Because we can talk about it, but
I know, and a lot of times they just think we're woo woo or we're not in touch with reality. I mean, I hear that a lot, but I love what you're saying because it's like I had a client just yesterday go, it was the first time in my life I realized nothing was right, but I was happy. She goes, I couldn't make sense of why I was having a great day because nothing was right in my world.
yeah.
And she said, no, it didn't last. But I was like, she said, but the simple fact that I could sit there and go, everything I had made up that had to be in place for me to be happy or even okay, or even to feel safe in the world, none of that was present. But the richness of and the freshness of what she was feeling, she could not make sense of it.
Wow.
Even in what she understands, even in what understanding we work together to gain. But she said, I told her, I said, once you touch those kinds of moments where it doesn't add up, but the feeling is too good, you can't deny, it really is it really wakes you up. Like,
Yeah.
there is something here. I don't know what it is, but there is something here.
Yeah. That's what we call insight. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
That is so true, Dale. That is so true. That is so true.
Oh, well, I've had the best time with you. This has been so lovely. I usually see you up in Lacona, so it's great to see you outside of there as well. With your, I used to see you on videos all the time, and I kept thinking, what a fabulous abstract painting that is behind Cherie. And then you told me last time I saw you that it's actually where people pin their papers up and go outside the lines and have so much fun. So
Yes,
I
yes.
love that that's your
Freedom.
back.
It's freedom. It's just freedom. It's like, how do we get so far away from just
I know.
being free in this life we've been given?
Yeah, yeah. So tell just for people that are listening to it on podcast and not watching it on YouTube, tell us how people can get in touch with you and any workshops. Well, I suppose with travel, the workshops are on hold right now, but once that's lifted, how people can come and see you and work with you.
Well, thank you, Dale. It's CherieRay.com and CherieRay. And I do 3 big workshops a year, Esalen and 2 in New Mexico, but I have a studio space here in Houston, Texas.
Oh, well, it was such a pleasure. And thank you so much. I love it. I get to meet amazing people doing amazing things in the world. So, and you're one of them. So thank you so
thank
much.
You too. Thank you, Dale.
And hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at Adey-Jones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.